This week on the Super Secret Podcast, we are going to take the story circle that we outlined in our last episode and show you how you can use it to make your games better for your players and give them a more well-rounded, enjoyable experience. Welcome back to the Super Secret Podcast, the show where we dive deep into a topic of interest and then we take what we learn from it and try to make a game out of it. I'm your host, always thinking in circles, Joel Watts, aka the Joel Watts on social media, and I'm joined as always by my co-host.
Feeling kind of square.
Yes, you are. Your name?
Oh, I'm Danny.
Yes. And last week we introduced you to the Story Circle, a great device for narrative structure. So if you want to know more about this, So if you want to know more about how we turned a circle into a game, you can go back and find that episode by going to any place where we host our episodes.
Oh my God. If you missed the last episode, you just think we spent the whole last episode talking about adapting a circle into a game. Circle the game.
It's like, what is it? The Hudsucker proxy. I have an idea. A circle.
Circle.
Yeah. But you can find that episode where we host our podcast, which is on all the major apps, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, but first and foremost, our favorite by far, YouTube, because this is a video show, right? It's medium screen. We decided to call it medium screen last time.
Medium screen. That's its new nickname.
Yeah. Okay. So while you're there, checking out the library of old episodes, please share the show with a friend. You got to have a friend out there who has had a story in their mind for a long time and they just can't get it down on paper. That episode would be great to share with them. We basically walk them through how to write an entire story, according to Dan Harmon. And on today's episode, we're going to be discussing using that story structure and turning it into a game-making tool to help you deliver a fulfilling experience to your players. But before we go diving deep into that rabbit hole, we got to get to the question of the week.
Yep. So the question of the week this week, again, I prepared it because Joel was very busy doing research. So the question is, if you could reskin any game with a new theme, which game would you reskin and what would the theme be?
Oh my goodness. That is a hell of a question. I will say, so there, it actually came up yesterday when we were talking. I forgot on Tuesday Night X. Hey, might as well plug Tuesday Night X really quick. Every Tuesday we play our game X Seekers of Fortune. Oh, it was right there, Danny.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not weird because of the green screen. Every Tuesday from 7 till about 9 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Yep.
We play X Seekers of Fortune, but really it's turned into quite a bit of just a hangout. And yesterday our hangout was all about, we got into the topic of Marvel Snap. And so if you go into our Discord, you could join us for those conversations. But what I remembered just now about Marvel Snap is when I was playing it, it has the 3 lanes, right? 3 locations that you're battling for. And I was like, what's even better than Marvel locations than Star Wars? Because Star Wars was almost after the first Star Wars movie, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi were known for escalating the amount of locations for its climax. And I think they figured out 3 is the magic number. 3 different things going on, 3 lanes in Marvel Snap. And Star Wars has some of the best locations. So I think the Star Wars game I want is basically Marvel Snap, but with Star Wars characters.
Yeah.
Imagine opening up Luke Skywalker. Oof, unlocking him.
That's better than my idea. Mine was just to reskin Wingspan with dragons.
Let me guess, you forgot to come up with an answer to your own question before you sat down.
This is not my usual thing. I ask really good questions that I have to think about, and I forget to think about them. So
yeah, that is true. Part of me also is a little worried about this because technically one of the tricks to game making is just taking another game and reskinning it. So let's maybe the less we say about that, the better. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great answers. I'll stick with Marvel Snap Star Wars Edition for sure.
Okay.
But that was our answers to the question of the weeks. But we want to know what your answer is. What game would you reskin and what would you skin it with? So if you want to share your answers with us so we can share them with the rest of the podcast audience, the best ways of doing that are three. So number one, go to YouTube and get into the comments section. right? Question of the week at the beginning of your comments so we can see it, distinguish it from all the other comments that are telling us how stinky we look or how grody this set is, whatever they're saying, those rude people. And you go in there and answer the question of the week. Number 2, I think this is the funnest one. Make a TikTok. You just point the camera at yourself and say your answer and tag Megamoth Studios, and we'll see it there. Danny specifically will curate that and bring them in. And number 3, this is the most dedicated. We will love you forever for this. Go to Apple Podcasts, rate our show 5 stars, and all you have to leave for your review is your answer to the question of the week. And we will definitely see that, and we will definitely read that on the air.
Oh, I just thought of the thing I wanted to say for my introduction.
Oh, yeah? What's that?
Yeah. Danny, unofficial member of Mom Talk.
Mom Talk.
Mom Talk.
Is that the Mormon Talk?
Yeah.
Mormon moms?
Yeah.
Are you infiltrating them?
No, not to their knowledge.
I think this could be... Danny, are you doing research for our next episode?
Yeah, no, I don't know. But, I think that could easily be a good thing to reskin,
Okay. Wow. I'd love to hear your pitch for that. But we're going to take a quick break, folks. And when we get back, we're going to talk about implementing the story circle in your game design and our game design. Be right back.
This week, we want to tell you about a brand new game coming to Kickstarter on September 10th called Pantheon. It's a new strategy game from Archwood Games. In it, you play a demigod competing against your siblings for the control of the creation of a brand new world. It is a very fun game with secret agendas and a lot of back and forth. Check it out on Kickstarter September 10th.
Now, back to the show. Welcome back to the Megamoth Studios Super Secret Podcast. Today, we are discussing how you can take the story circle that we talked about last time, the 8 slices, like a pizza, and you can apply it to your game design to make a more fulfilling experience. So, Danny, as my student, would you be able to summarize the story circle and refresh our audience?
Yep. So the story circle is 8 slices, as Joel mentioned. However, there are 2 main slices you're going to make at the beginning. So you've got your vertical slice and your horizontal slice that's going to separate your story into quadrants. The vertical slice is going to be your character line. On the right side of the circle, we're going to see the character as they were before we met them and how they will be in the beginning of the story. And on the left side of the circle, we are going to see them as the person they transform into. And then we have a horizontal slice, which is going to be our setting. And on the top, we're going to see the world that they had inhabited. And then on the bottom, it's the world they're leaving to go to. And we'll travel through to come back to the old world change. Mm-hmm. And then you add an X, which is sort of slice it up into 8 different slices. You start with your character, which is the you, and then you go to a need, goes to a go, which goes to a search, which goes to a find, which goes to a take, which goes to a return, which goes to a change.
Boom!
Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
Got an A+ there, Danny. A+.
There we go.
All right. So what I suggest that we do, because what we want to find ourselves, we're out here on a journey to find something. We have a need. We want to see how we can take the story circle and make it something that isn't just applied to narrative, linear narrative media, passive narrative media. We want to take it and put it into the dynamic, active media of games and gameplay and game design.
And this is maybe a little experimental, right? Because we're not 100% sure it'll map on completely, but this is part of the process. We come from a storytelling background. We want to see how we can create games that tell great stories and make players feel like they're characters in great stories. And so part of the exercise today is to see how the story circle translates to game design.
And probably non-linear media in general.
Yeah.
So I asked you to bring a game that I don't know, or that I don't know what you're about to bring, but I asked you to bring a game today for us to sort of dissect using the story circle. What did you decide on?
So a game we've played a lot of lately, Splendor.
I love Splendor.
Splendor,
You got us. That was top-notch strategy last time. You realized that you needed to build tall, and I was going for my wide build on my engine, And in retrospect, I realized I had the wrong strategy, and you really ran the table on us.
It happens every now and then.
Yes. But okay, so to set the stage, let's just give the high level. In Splendor, you're essentially like a miner or a miner, would you say?
I would say that you are
Prospector?
a up and coming. You're like whatever Daniel Plainview is of like gems.
Yeah. So let's say prospector.
Some sort of prospector that's going to have some aspirations towards vertical integration.
Yes. And then through the game, you're using tokens to buy basically gem mines. And you're getting is gem the right word here? Because
Precious stones. They're
precious
gems,
stones.
Generally speaking. Mm-hmm.
And you get those, and as you get the mines, no longer do you need the tokens because the mines give you that resource every single turn.
So the want is want the ability to impress nobles and produce enough gems to get to market.
Yeah, well, let's we set the stage. Let's just go one piece at a time.
Okay.
So just to make sure. So we have the you, like you said, you're young. Well, in game design, I think one of the things that we should back out of, not just on Splendor, is you is always going to be the player. The player is playing as the protagonist of their game. They might not realize it, but they're going to be the antagonist to their if it's not a cooperative game but a competitive game, they're going to be the antagonist to everybody else, and they might lose in the end, and it could be somebody else's story, but you are always assuming that you are the protagonist. And in this case, like we said, you're some sort of young up and coming prospector who has a lifetime ahead of them. I would say Splendor is the kind of game where the you in the game, the theme of the game starts at the age of like 20 or so, and by the end of it, you're probably somebody in your 50s or 60s.
Yeah, I'm sure on the box they tell you exactly how they want you to think of yourself. I don't know if it's like a merchant or a prospector, but you feel like you're wearing a few different hats.
Yeah, for sure, as you would, because you're the boss. You're not just like you're not the guy in the mine chiseling away. You're the guy who owns the mine, making plans. So you need, in this situation, the game tells you your need is to be the first person to get 15 victory points.
You need 15 victory points, which in the game is sort of representative of being a successful merchant whose gems are in the hands of nobles and stores, and
having gained patrons of like nobles proportions. Like the first edition of the game came with like King Henry VIII as a noble that you could swoon. So essentially glory, fame, attention. Let's just say that can usually be what the need is in most games. It's either survival or it's admiration.
Yeah.
So then you go. Now in this situation, we would say the go is probably the act of playing the game in general. Like you, as I said, in the story circle, the go is when the story starts. So all of what we just said, the you and the need, was just setting up the game. Yeah. Going is starting the first turn.
Yeah, and yes, I would say that's accurate.
Mm-hmm. Now, so you could break down so far we could break down any game like this. I think honestly we could break down any game like this,
so you is the player.
Yeah.
Want is the victory condition.
Yes. Need. Yeah.
Go is basically how you take a turn, probably.
Yeah, pretty much. So then the search, I think you were kind of getting to that, right? Well, so this is in Splendor, the way I feel about it is this is you just trying to decide on strategy, trying to both play the long-term game of I need to get 15 victory points, so I need to be looking at like what big victory point cards and what patrons I'm trying to collect, while also managing what's in front of me. What can I buy now, or what can I buy next turn, or what can I set up to buy 3 turns from now? So I feel like that's sort of the search of the game.
It's accumulating your initial resources, trying to figure out what you're going to end up using them for.
Yeah. And also learning what the people around the table are going to be taking, because they could steal your plans out from underneath you, because every turn in Splendor, you get to do one of a few things. And so if the person who goes right before you decides to buy the thing, the mine, whatever you want to call it, that you were saving up for, the card, let's just call it a card that you were saving up for, and now there's nothing on the table you can buy, that would be really bad. Last turn, maybe you should have used your turn to reserve that card. So there's lessons to be learned, bonks to be taken on the head, on the noggin. Now, this is going to be maybe the tricky one. It's my favorite, and it's probably my favorite because it is the tricky one, which is the find of Splendor. What do you have an idea of what you would describe as the find of the game?
I think the find is when you kind of lock in on what you think is the way you're going to play the game this time around. Splendor is one of those games where every time you play it, and I mean a lot of games are like this, you're not really sure, one, how the cards are going to come to you,
Yeah.
who the nobles are going to be,
Uh-huh.
and so you've got to make some decisions based on what cards are on the table and what nobles are out as to, how you're going to advance through the game. And in the early stages of the game, you may have a very vague strategy, but as the game moves on, your strategy is probably becoming ever more refined. So I would say that, the find is sort of like when you get to that point where you're like, okay, I think I know what I'm going for.
That's a good point, because like so you ran the table on the last game we played, but the game before that, I really felt like I locked in to like 3 or 4 turns before I won the game. I felt like, okay, I know what I need to do. It's like seeing the code, and maybe that's it. Like whoever at the table sees the code of the matrix, whoever sees what the next few turns are going to be and turns that into a victory. So maybe the find is something that not everybody gets to experience every game. Maybe it's what you plan for the person who is going to win the game or is going to be on a pathway towards victory to discover, like going from a mess of resources in front of you to actually seeing it being the engine that it is. And like now you're the master of the world. It's like, I buy this, then I buy that, then I buy that, and I win.
Yeah.
Something to that effect. Well, then you set up your plans, and the take seems to be all about the dominoes just being knocked over.
You're buying the key cards. You're making your points,
Mm-hmm.
and enacting your strategy. You're literally taking cards off the table.
Yeah. And if somebody else is also in a mode to have a pathway to victory, this could also be you taking away the victory from them, because you this isn't a Splendor, but last night we were playing X Seekers of Fortune at Tuesday Night X, as I said.
Yeah.
And you did something very unexpected to me, because I felt like we got into a situation. This is like almost too deep to get into, but I felt like we got into a situation where it's like, we were on an even playing field, and it's like you do your thing, and I'm going to do my thing. But then during your turn, you spited me by giving up your opportunity to do the thing, but you knew that it would, by the time you got back to yourself, you would then be able to do the thing, and I wouldn't be. So it's almost like you took a turn off to sabotage me, and still you had your cake and you ate it too.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't describe it as spiting. I think it was just an optimal play that did not feel good on the other end.
Yeah, that's pretty much what spite is. But yeah, I mean, that's probably the take. That's where you can have take in gameplay, is when you're actually taking away your opponent's victory, I think. And once if two players are of equal footing, and they are fairly equal footing, and one of them is able to pull out ahead, and
it is the essential head-to-head competitive quality. Maybe the take has a different flavor in a cooperative game because you're taking against a shared adversary.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like we said, this is more of an exercise in kind of seeing how the story circle applies to game.
Yeah.
And I think for us eventually, can we design a game that's even more considerate of the story circle that maybe delivers, a novel experience for players?
For sure. But so in Splendor, so maybe if we tried to assign mechanics to each of these, in Splendor, the take would be your ability to literally take reserve cards. You can either buy the card your rival wants, if you know that that's the one they want, or if you know it's the one they want and you can wait a turn, you can just reserve it, and you get a wild token that you can use to buy for any current, it could be any of the gems for the currency, and you take the card off the table, so you could just take it away from them, literally.
Yeah.
And if you're at the point where you're seeing how everybody else is playing the game, you can start playing against your rivals instead of just playing for your own engine.
That's an interesting idea. Is it less about the flow of the game and more about the mechanical, there being mechanical representations of
Well,
each
as I say,
slice?
it's story within circles within circles. I think
Yeah.
that's a little bit of both. I think the flow of the game should feel that way, but I think also the resource, like, you should probably be able to go through all of these questions, or most of these questions, especially need, search, find, take, and during a turn, and be able to enact on them.
I think in a game we might find that search, find, take are kind of almost like Interstellar, maybe like these overlapping things where it's kind of define a strategy, enact a strategy, foil a strategy,
Uh huh.
all kind of simultaneously happening.
Yeah, exactly. It's much more of a dance. It's much more like fluid like that. But because like I said before, in a movie, a movie is a series of sequences which in of themselves are story circles. Like a sequence should probably be taken out of a movie, and with just a little bit of context added, it could be watched on its own. So yeah, I think that that's probably true here too. A turn could have any one of these go off, or multiple of them go off. Now, this is, I think, where we get a little bit more. This is probably sort of like you and need were more built into the setup of the game. The last two things, return and change, are probably going to be more about like what the victory condition is and what that represents. So let's think of return for Splendor.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is just accomplishing the victory condition, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you've reached your 15 points, and the change, not unlike many stories where it's sort of more of a statement about how things have changed. I would say it's just simply you've gone from player to winner.
Yeah, the gems we found along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like, well, I think it's pretty. Here's the thing where I think a board game, or mostly any sort of game, has an advantage in terms of it just being what is the term, intuitive.
Hmm.
Is in a board game you have to have like some sort of victory condition. The change is built into the system. In Splendor, you look down, look at this. I got all these gems. My life has changed so much. I have all these patrons, and I have more. I have the requisite amount to be the victor, or what have you. Sorry, I always get paranoid while talking, and I just want to like to look down and make sure we're
Yeah, it
recording.
looks good.
Yeah,
We're still recording this
after
episode.
yeah, after misrecording one episode or not recording one episode, you get just put that paranoia. Anyways, but so I think that you're right. It's like that they kind of just go together. You and need sort of go together because it's like the you and because they're kind of sandwiched. The you and need and return and change is the bread to the game sandwich, where it's there. You need it to hold the game experience together, but you're not really as much interacting with it. It's like a given, versus the sandwich toppings or whatever, the sandwich fillings. That's where you actually get to be more experimental. So I think of you in need as being like that thing you read in the instruction booklet, like for X Seekers of Fortune. You are an adventurer, and you're out, you're in a race against your rival to find the secrets of the lost civilization of the Arakai. That is the you and the need all in one sentence, right? And so the return and change for our game, X Seekers of Fortune, would uh, be the first to complete 5 adventures. So and take your place in the in the history books.
Yep.
Become a famous archaeologist or treasure seeker. So you've changed. You've went from being a nobody to being a somebody, and you did it by returning with the lost secrets of the Arakai.
Yep. Yep.
So I think that if we wanted to, we could like focus, like knowing that the go, search, find, and take is more like mechanical. I think
Yeah,
that we could
I
dig
agree
more
with
on
that.
that.
Yeah, I do. I think it's so much, it's so different, right? It in some ways it's like, I'm going to use a game analogy here that's imprecise, but like the difference between playing like a side scroller and an open world game,
Uh huh.
a story that you watch always is going to feel like a side scroller. It's linearly moving forward in at least in the progression of information being dispensed by like the author to you.
Uh-huh.
You're having to follow whatever it is that they've, even like a nonlinear movie like Pulp Fiction, you're forced to experience it in the sequence that Tarantino set out for you.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in a game, it's much more of an open world. There is no direct narrative, so the circle can't follow that progression. So instead, we have to give the player the ability to interact with those experiences on their own throughout the game in the form of mechanics.
Yes, that's a really great way of saying it, and I think that like the this really comes down to theme is ever so important. If you had talked to me, I always say it, or not always, maybe this is my first time on the podcast. I think I've said it to you in real life though. If you had talked to me before I made a game, I would have sworn that I could make an abstract game, a game that's just shapes and colors and, collect all the triangles in order to, gain, I don't know. That's the thing. I in there, I thought that would be the ideal game because I think of Tetris as being the ideal game. But it turns out that really the theme feels like the glue that holds everything together. Whether it be, like you said, adventurers searching for treasure or prospectors searching for gems, which turns out kind of very similar. I think we also see Splendor and we're like, oh, this is kind of a different alternate universe X Seekers of Fortune we
could easily imagine something similar to that.
Yeah, but I always just go back to, like, I almost feel like I need this. I know there's people out there who can make abstract games. There are probably people who come from a more of a mathy background who come to game design. Versus we come from a storytelling background. So I think we think of we always go back to the themes when we made X Seekers of Fortune. These answers, the mechanics that we have could probably map on to different elements of the game. But I think just having, like, I'm almost going to go out and say, treat this, especially go, search, find, take. You could practically treat that as your turn order, like your North Star for taking a turn. You go, you're literally going. It's your turn. Go. Search. Well, let me look at the table. What is going on? What do I have in my hand? I'm searching for an option. You find the option and you take that option. It's almost like inherent in a turn-based game that you have that flow of turn. And I think a lot of people, we've run into some friction because we don't have like a turn order card yet in X Seekers of Fortune. So sometimes when we're talking to very board gamey people who are used to, like, turns being very specifically laid out for them, they get a little annoyed that we don't have that. But I guess I'm just
now.
We do now. When you buy the game, you will get the turn order card. Trust me, we listened and we heard. But I think it's maybe because to me it seems so inherent, like that is just what you do during a turn. So it's almost, there's probably a reason why storytelling is one of the most ancient forms of entertainment, but so is game design. Game design has been around for as long as we have nearly as long as we have archaeological record.
I mean, game is just play, and play is another form of storytelling.
Yes.
It's a storytelling where we get to take on the role of the characters. So I think that games and stories have this shared lineage. At most they're cousins. They might even be siblings.
Yeah.
And
because there's like definitely a mass. In the Jungian, Freudian, whatever you want to say, way of using masculine and feminine, there's kind of a masculine quality of game because you're the one who takes action versus being the audience member of the storytelling. You're much more passive, to it.
It's, in some sense, I think of, and again, going back to this analogy here, I'm gonna spin it up a different way. Stories as we know them, when we read them and we watch them, we listen to them, however, that's experiencing a two-dimensional story. Games are three-dimensional stories.
Hell yeah.
In a sense. Possibly four-dimensional stories, and certainly if you're playing a TTRPG and you're a dungeon master, you're probably a four-dimensional being.
Ooh, that's so many hats to wear all at once. But yeah, that's, that it's almost like one of those things where I thought we'd have to dig deeper to find this or have more of a tenuous conversation or like a back and forth, but everything slides in so perfectly. I feel like we've already covered the topic This might be a short episode, Danny.
I'm okay with short episodes, and you know what? I know who else is good with short episodes. You might be thinking I'm saying the editor will, and he definitely is, but it's really the listeners who favorite part of the episode is when it ends.
Okay, well, how about this? We're going to go to. Sorry, I was completely blanking because that was such a good joke. Well, basically, why don't we go ahead and start talking about how we would turn the story circle into a game right when we get back. Thank you so much for tuning into the show today. And as always, we are brought to you by X Seekers of Fortune, the game that we both created. The game is live on Pledge Manager. So that means that you can buy your copy of X Seekers of Fortune through Pledge Manager. The way you would get there is you can go to Kickstarter.com, look up X Seekers of Fortune, and there will be a late pledge button. Click on that, and it'll take you to the Pledge Manager where we still have plenty of our bundles available for you. Not only that, but you can also get any and all of the add-ons that we had initially offered during the Kickstarter. So go to Pledge Manager or to Kickstarter, look up X Seekers of Fortune, and get your copy today while you can still get a discount on it, and you can still guarantee your first edition copy of the game. And what makes the first edition copy special, not only does every card in the Action X deck come with a special first edition logo stamp, but also you are going to receive a first edition booster pack. This pack will contain at least 5 cards that can go into the Action X deck right away to augment your gameplay. These cards may be available in the future, but probably never with these first edition artworks on them again. So go to Kickstarter and late pledge and get your first edition copy of the game. Now, back to the show. All right, Secret Keepers, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. Can we turn the story circle into a game for the second time? And for you, it's two times in 2 episodes. For us, it's 2 times in a day. So, Danny, I have a pitch for the story circle game, and this is like put Dan Harmon's face on it with a thumbs up, kind of game in a box. This isn't like last time where I kind of cheated and just said, "Hey, here's a fun little game you could play. It's really work, but we call it a game." This one is completely, like I said, a game. And I would say that it's sort of a Mad Libs style game.
Okay.
An Exquisite Corpse inspired game.
I don't know what that is.
We've done the Exquisite Corpse before. It's artists do it by folding up a piece of paper, and one will draw the top, and then they'll unfold the paper and fold it in such a way you can't see the top, and one person will draw the middle without seeing the top, and then finally the last person will
interesting.
Do the bottom. And this one, I think it's a little bit more like the writer's version, where usually in the writer's version, you write some segment of story and hand it off. The next person can read what you wrote, and they write something. And then the next person can read what the second person did, but they can't read what the first person wrote. So that second person could completely have changed everything, but then they respond.
I usually do.
Yeah, I've been the little butt in a game of telephone who just completely says something different at my turn. So basically I imagine it like if you've ever played the drawing game, do you know what I'm talking about?
Pictionary?
It's not, it's kind of Pictionary, but it's like group Pictionary. I'm trying to remember.
Categories? Telestrations?
Telestrations. Thank you. If you've ever, I just imagine that same spiral, and it has like, the 8 pages, the 8 slices, and everybody gets around in a group, and you all have you have the U page, and everybody writes down what the U is. Ooh. They pass it. You get to read what the U is. Then you flip it over and you write the need, and then you pass it, and the person reads the need, flips it over, and writes the go of the story. And then at the end, everybody shares what goes through it like a Mad Lib and goes through it sequentially and reads it out loud.
That's kind of fun.
I think it could make a great party game, and it could really teach people the story circle.
I like it.
Do you think we should cut it out of the episode because we should make it?
Can we play it right now? Is there a way to play it?
I think it would be best for 4 people, but we could. Yeah, we just need that piece no, because you need at least 3 people, because I can read what you wrote and you can read what I wrote. Unless we did it completely Exquisite Corpse and you write the U, and then I don't get to read your U and I just write a need. Do you want to do that version?
Let's try it. Let's see how it goes.
Okay, there's a paper and pen. So why don't you write a U and flip the page over, and I won't read the U.
Okay.
This is I'll vamp a little bit here, but I think like a flip book is. I think I saw what the U was.
Yeah,
Gotta
and
be
it's
careful.
written on the next page. This is more tricky than I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
It's also like we're ultimately reacting to nothing, so it's going to just be like 3
How
random
about
things.
we do this? Well, because we're just splitting them, right?
Yeah.
So we'll write them on our phone or or I'll just keep writing them on here.
Yeah, I got my computer.
So
I got my computer in front of me. I can open up a notes app.
Okay.
So, you're taking you.
Over. Yeah. Okay. So I'm taking you, right?
Okay. So that means I'm taking need.
Okay. And I got go.
So that means I get search. Well, that's going to be really interesting.
And I have find.
Yes. So that means I have take.
Okay.
So and I have search. Whoops.
It's going to be interesting to see if this is.
And then I get return, I guess. Or
No,
I get change.
Yeah. Okay.
Take.
Okay.
And remember, folks, this isn't the patented version of the game. This is like a very trial version.
This is not how we would sell it to you in a box. We would probably give you the U or something.
Oh, that also would be a good. Might also be a good way. Need. Okay, let's see. Okay, cool. So, all right, let's hope that this worked out. Danny, do you want to start with the U?
Sure. The U in this particular story circle is a nude model.
A nude model who needs a can of tuna to give to her cat to lure it out of a crawl space.
So she goes to the art capital of the world.
This is where the story falls apart. Where she see, I'm just going to say what I wrote. Okay, so she searches the HUB as it changed its layout, and she ends up sleepwalking her way to the hair care aisle. So
where she finds her prized collaborator, a world-renowned artist that she's admired for many years.
So she lures the tuna lord away from their cart and takes the whole thing out of spite for them taking away the tuna from the shelf. Okay.
And then returns to her high school art teacher's class to show her a thing or two about how she's made it in the world.
And you then put the tuna down for the cat, and all of a sudden many cats come out of the crawl space and you have to live with them all forever.
Yeah, and this is called A Tale of Two Pussies.
So you see why you can't just do it blind. You do need to be able to read like the last thing in the order.
Yeah.
You can still go and be really cheeky and crumb it up, but you kind of want to know that you're doing that and how you're doing it.
Yeah, this is definitely a multiplayer game. I would say it needs some work, but I do think there could be a party game here.
Yeah. It could be fun. Plus, I mean, it's a game that's like what it practically is like just us taking a game that already exists. We can figure out the price of it and then just rewriting the rules. It's like, how much does Telestrations cost? We just have to make Telestrations.
I would say for legal purposes, that's not what happened with this game.
Cut it for legal purposes. All right. I think so. That was my pitch, Danny. Did you happen to have any, did anything come to your mind
for how we would turn the story circle into a game?
Yeah.
No, again, I think for me, the big takeaway is more that when you're thinking about the story circle in the context of a game, you want to think about it as the types of experiences you want the mechanics to elicit in the players, so that the player feels like they can tell their own story circle game they can tell their own story using the story circle, playing your game, using the mechanics as the way they're going to fulfill each portion of that journey.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think, sort of like last time, not, the other homework from this episode, if you're very serious about game design, is just like what Danny and I did with Splendor. Why don't you go ahead and take a game and try to figure out what is all 8 of the story points of it. And you know what? If you do that, share it with us on social media. But first, before we get to that, I have to say, so my game, Danny, that I pitched, the Mad Lib Story Circle. What do you think? Would you toss the game, shelve the game, or make the game?
It depends on how many views this episode had. No, I would say right now it's between shelve and make. I don't feel like fully understand how this game is going to work. I believe this game can work. I tinker around with it a little bit and it could move into the make column. But how long it stays on the shelf until that happens remains to be seen, because there's a lot of good games in the make queue.
Yeah, that's very true. And we might need help with those. So feel free, where to reach out to us. In fact, why don't I go over those places that you can find us? I know why all of a sudden is that giving me trouble. So why don't you go ahead and let us know your thoughts on the games sorry. That's actually really annoying. Can you just hit the button so I don't have to hit it? It's far right. Hold it. Does it feel like something weird is going on there? Maybe.
Is it raining outside? I think.
Oh, that's it. Well, there we go. We can't turn off the rain.
When you shut it off and the noise persists, you want me to turn it back on?
Yeah, I might as well. I think that now that I know it's not like this thing is dying on me, I can concentrate better.
Okay.
Okay. So, to get back to it, please let us know your thoughts on the game that we just pitched, or if you have your own game ideas for the game of the week, please let us know on our social media. The best way of getting to us, there's actually 3 great ways of getting to us. Danny, can you remember those 3 ways?
So at Moth Studios on TikTok, X_seekers_of_fortune on Instagram. And there's also, I think it's just Moth Studios on Instagram, and then X Seekers of Fortune and Moth Studios on Facebook. In addition to the YouTube, which if you're listening, come find us on YouTube. And if you are already on the YouTube, why haven't you joined the Patreon yet? We really want to have a conversation with you about the show and the direction it should go in.
And the audio issues it might be facing. But yeah, go to those places, add us, answer with game of the week at the front end, so that way we can see it. And you know what? The ultimate way of getting our attention is to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. If you help us out with that, we will definitely see it and read it on the next show.
How many do we have so far, Joel?
I would assume we have 0. Do you want to check really quick?
Yeah, I'll check and see. So we're looking at Apple Podcasts. Have they taken us down yet? No, we're still up here. Cool.
Yeah.
Moth.
I wonder, do we?
Now it just feels like someone's peeing on it. We have
Spish Splash pee on that thing.
Is that your version of the
Hawktua?
Hawktua.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have 4 ratings and we are rated 4 out of 5.
That's decent. That's decent.
Oh, cool. We have 4 5-star ratings and 1 1-star rating.
Oh, can we read? Okay, I know we said we'd read the 5 stars, which we will do, but I want to know what that 1 star said.
I don't know. They didn't leave a review.
Jeez. That's somebody who just really dislikes us. That's somebody in our personal life who has made it their point to try to bring us down.
Yeah, I'm really curious who it would be that decided to do that, but that's okay.
Okay. What about the other? Did anybody else?
No one has written a review yet.
Okay.
But it's like anytime you go to a Yelp place, there's going to be a bunch of reviews, and there's going to be that one person who's like, 1 star because they didn't have trombones for me to use.
Yeah, sure. I mean, 100%. But when you see enough 1 stars all in a row, not to go there.
It is possible in a past episode I asked people to give us 1-star reviews, so it may just be someone following through. So
I have no idea why you asked that, Danny, but okay. But that's been our show for today. That's been this episode of the Moth Studios Super Secret Podcast. I would like to thank my co-host Danny for really running us through Splinter so well, like making it all click.
Did I, though?
And I have been your host, Joel, reminding you that you must start somewhere, so why not here? Thanks for listening. Produced and edited by William Wymore. Theme music by James Holden.